Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Freaky Friday on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best, flying solo for today's game preview. Really excited to talk some ball with you guys today. Big Sunday night football tilt ahead with the Lions, one of the better teams in the NFL. Before we get to that, no Sterling Holmes. I'm not going to fly through this as fast, but we do have a bit of business, and that's Underdog. Football season is in full swing, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all that action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, and more. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at Lions and Chiefs since that's what we're talking about today. And I am selecting Tyquan Thornton as a smash for higher than 21.5 receiving yards against a decimated Lions secondary. And then I'm going to go with Amon St. Brown. I'm a little worried about that matchup against potentially Chamari Connor there in the slots. We'll see if that materializes or if Spags kind of gets it together. But I am going higher than 0.5 total TDs for Amon St. Brown. Download the app today. Sign up with promo code Arrowhead Addict to score $100 in bonus funds or entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code Arrowhead Addict. Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Let's get into our game preview. And Sunday Night Football, the Detroit Lions, like I said, one of the better teams in the league coming into Kansas City. And we will get to them in a second. But the first thing I want to get to is there's just too much panic in these Kingdom streets. So a couple of things to make you feel better. First of all, we've done this before. This feels very 2021. There have been times where the Chiefs have had losses that we felt like were catastrophic against the Indianapolis Colts in multiple seasons. That game where Patrick Mahomes had that kind of high ankle thing, that game where Chris Jones got that weird penalty for whatever he said to Matt Ryan. I think we eventually found out, but it was a very weird situation. But the Chiefs, they treat the regular season differently than other teams. And that's one of the things that's so frustrating to me about like the Mahomes conversation versus some of these other quarterbacks who I do think are doing a little bit more of the kind of the stat merchant thing in the regular season. The Chiefs, they treat it like a laboratory. Their goal is figuring themselves out and making it to the playoffs healthy. And if they can get the number one seed, so be it. That is one path to the Super Bowl. If they can't get the number one seed, we saw it 2 years ago. One of the toughest paths ever, according to DVOA. They went through Buffalo and Baltimore before beating San Francisco in the Super Bowl. So they know they don't have to have the number one seed. And I just think they don't really care if they win by 1 or 40 in the regular season. Some of these other teams, I think the Lions are one guilty party. They do pad some stats. They do run up numbers if they're playing a bad opponent or if they're up in a game. They keep their foot on the gas. As we all know, that is not really Andy Reid's forte. That's not really his style. But a couple stats here that are encouraging, or not stats, numbers. Kansas City is currently number 1 in the ESPN/Seth Walder's Football Power Index. And what is the Football Power Index? Well, that is a performance predicting simulator for the rest of the season. And it surprised him. It surprised me. But they run through like 10,000 simulations. And the Chiefs have the rosiest outlook of the entire league looking forward because of their makeup, because of the way they're performing and the schedule left on the docket. Now, in week 5, the Chiefs' offensive success rate was also the highest of any offense all season long. And because they punted a couple times when they probably shouldn't have, and they had that pick 6, it didn't seem like that, but their offense is really, really humming. And I think we have to feel great about that because what's about to happen, everybody got to eat. One more week until Rashee Rice is unleashed. I'm super excited about number 4. Those are the kind of receivers, by the way, Amon Ross St. Brown, who we will talk about, but Jackson Smith and Jigba, Puka Nacua, these kind of like slot guys who can really win and be physical and get upfield, catching the ball in the middle of the field. They are eating the NFL alive. The defenses that offenses are seeing are just tailor-made for Rashee Rice. So I don't think the league knows what is about to hit them. The only receiver who averaged more yards per game in the first 3 weeks last year than Rashee Rice was Ja'Marr Chase. He was averaging over 90 yards a game. So crazy. The number 2 thing I'm watching this week, and this is a list of 10. I don't think I said that, but 10 things we're looking at. Andy Reid must match Dan Campbell's 4th down aggression. I was very disappointed in Andy Reid last week. I think this is the most under-discussed, underreported element of why they lost. So he had 2 punts that ranked higher than the 90th percentile. According to the surrender index algorithm, I think the surrender index isn't the end all be all, but it's a very good indicator of whether a team should go for it or not go for it. And that's since 1999. So it was a pretty cowardly punt. That's kind of what they're ranking, cowardly punts. And the first one was on the Jacksonville 46 on 4th and 2nd. With 9:38 remaining in the first, tied 0-0. 4th and 2nd, anywhere over the 50, when you have Patrick Mahomes, automatic. You should be going for it. You should be going for it every single time. I don't care if you have the punt god. You also have the arm god in Patrick Mahomes. You got to trust your 500 million or billion or whatever he is eventually going to be quarterback to get the job done. And then the second one, this is a little bit more controversial, but from the Jacksonville 44 on 4th and 10 with 13:58 remaining in the 4th, while losing 14-21. So the new kicking rules kind of are encouraging teams to go for it more. I know 4th and 10 sounds pretty crazy, but if you're thinking about the field position game, you might not be changing things all that much by, I don't know, you may be in better position. It's kind of complicated there, but Andy Reid is now facing Dan Campbell, who is maybe the most aggressive 4th down coach in NFL history. It's 4th and 6 on his own 44. I could see him going for it. He is going to really challenge the Chiefs when it comes to aggression. He knows the caliber of opponent he's playing against. I mean, he is aggressive no matter the opponent. So against this opponent, I am concerned that Andy Reid is going to bring a knife to a gunfight, a toothpick to a bazooka fight, potentially. Number 3, this is the other reason I believe the Chiefs lost last week, and it kind of obscured how good they were on offense, and that's special teams. Their special teams were anything but special. So I'm asking special teams coach Dave Tobe, can you please get your shit together? Because it's not just the penalties. Yes, the penalties were bad. I mean, it's very frustrating to me on kick return specifically that they're getting holding and all kinds, like double teaming penalties, all kinds of just a lack of concentration, not good situational football. You have to realize that, hey, special teams are important, but number 15 is about to get the ball, and you don't need to be a hero. The Chiefs don't need to get the ball at the 50-yard line for Patrick Mahomes to engineer a long, masterful drive. Just get him the ball. Don't back him up. Don't back him up on the 10 or the 15-yard line. That's really your job. Just play clean football. And if it was up to me, Jack Cochran might be a Walmart greeter at this point, because his play last week was unacceptable. You know, when you're Chris Jones and you're loafing on the last play, you're a highly paid, highly decorated player who makes big mistakes in a big game, your job is safe. But when you're kind of on the roster bubble and you're costing your teams games, I don't know. Sometimes you can get the axe. The Chiefs are a very forgiving franchise. I will say that. You know, they look at it this way. Someone fumbles. Andy Reid is not one of these draconian coaches who's like, okay, you made a mistake, you're not going to play, you're in the doghouse. He goes right back to those guys. And I think that's just kind of the mentality in the building is build them up, don't tear them down. But man, you got to play clean football. And Harrison Butker has missed 3 field goals, 2 extra points. And last week, he had a very costly kickoff gaffe. And that gave the Jacksonville Jaguars, with plenty of time on the clock late in the game, the ball at the 40 and enough room to engineer a game-winning drive. It's another one of the biggest reasons the Chiefs lost. You just cannot do that. I mean, this is a potential Hall of Fame kicker who's had one of the most illustrious starts of any kicker in league history, and he just does not look like himself. And, you know, kickers can get in the funk very quickly. It's a very mental thing. So something to watch. Is Harrison Butker going to continue to struggle? Is Dave Tobe going to continue to have undisciplined units? They really need special teams. Special teams don't even have to be that great for the Chiefs. Just don't shoot yourself in the foot, right? Trust Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo to win the games for you. You don't have to win them on special teams. Now, Harrison Butker, we do count on him to have ice in his veins late in games. And really, even at times when he's had slumps, he never disappoints when it's time to go out there to win a game. So I'm not panicked, but it is something to watch. Number 4, polar opposite strategies. This is really interesting because these two teams offensively have totally different philosophies. The Chiefs are number 1 in pass rate over expected, and that's by a country mile. Only the Chargers come somewhat close. The 3rd highest team in pass rate over expected is the Rams, and they are less than half. You know, they're just like, if you look at the bar, it's crazy. And then the Lions are 2nd in run rate over expected. So the Chiefs are the pass happiest team in the league. The Lions are the 2nd most run heaviest team in the league. And it makes sense, right? Because when you're the Chiefs, you have perhaps the most talented quarterback in league history handing the ball off to average running backs. I don't say that to be mean, but I think at this point, Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt are like replacement level guys who play their guts out and know the playbook and are unselfish, but you know, they're just average. And then you have Jared Goff, who isn't in the same stratosphere as Patrick Mahomes from a talent standpoint. He's a good quarterback. You know, if there are Lions fans that see this, don't come at me. He's a good quarterback, especially in the right system, but he's just not on the same planet as Patrick Mahomes. And then he has one superstar running back and one, I don't know, almost star running back in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So they're handing the ball off like crazy. They've got a good offensive line. I know they lost the center, Frank Ragnow, one like probably the 2nd best center in the league after Jason Kelce retired and Creed Humphrey kind of like took that crown. So that was a big loss for them. And now Taylor Decker, one of their tackles, is out as well. But they're going to run the ball. That's their identity. They're a physical football team, and they've got those two guys that are just unbelievable. Sonic and Knuckles, or whatever you want to call them. So I think what the Chiefs don't want to do in this game is get down, and especially get down big early, because that game script is going to play into the Lions' hands. They're just going to run the ball, try to shorten the game, and take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. So I think the Chiefs need to hang in there early and not fall behind. Number 5, as I alluded to earlier, the Lions have a very beat-up secondary. This is kind of a crazy list. Corners DJ Reid and Terrion Arnold are out. Safeties Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, plus nickel Avonte Maddox. He's kind of a safety. He's kind of a quarter, from my understanding, are game time decisions. This could be a potential feast for not only Xavier Worthy, who sounds like, if you're reading the tea leaves, I think he's going to play Sunday night, even though he didn't practice yesterday. I know we were kind of worried with him last week when that ankle injury popped up out of nowhere. I think he's going to play. He's a really tough kid. You got to give it to Xavier Worthy. I think a lot of people were worried, will he even play, be himself this season? And then like 3 weeks later, he's back looking like himself. He's tough. Tyquan Thornton, I also think is going to have opportunities to beat this secondary deep. And he's showing a really great rapport with Patrick Mahomes. Not just good chemistry, but Patrick Mahomes truly trusts him. There was a moment last week on their big connection, and they seem to have at least a 30, 40-yard pass every single week all season long. And that harkens back to the preseason game against the Bears. But Mahomes had to get rid of it because of the pass rush fairly quickly. And he trusted his arm and trusted his receiver to get the ball to the right place and Tyquan Thornton to make a play. It wasn't quite F it, Tyreek is down there somewhere, but it was close. And Tyquan came up with the catch. So he has been probably the most unexpected positive development of this young Chiefs season. Very encouraged by him. And I think both those guys are going to have a good day Sunday. That's why Tyquan was one of my underdog picks, frankly. Number 6, Kingsley Suamataia is surging. Very excited about this because his PFF pass blocking grades weeks 1 through 3 was a 41.5. Again, no site or system is the end all be all, but they tend to do a pretty good job with the offensive line. So weeks 4 to 5, that average is up to 81.7, like literally twice as good. And he is really starting to find his bearings and get comfortable out there. And it has made a world of difference, not only in the passing game, I think in the running game, the offensive line was opening some big gaping holes last week against the Jaguars. And Patrick Mahomes just had a lot of time back there. It wasn't perfect, but he does look comfortable. And I think a big part of that is Josh Simmons is just rocking it at left tackle. They're leaving him out there on an island at one of the highest rates in the league. And they threw him out there and said, sink or swim. And he is swimming. He is doing great. He is one of the lowest pressure rates in the league for a left tackle. So it couldn't be going any better for the number 32 overall pick, Josh Simmons. And I think that allows Andy Heck, Andy Reid, and the offensive coaching staff to focus more on making life easier for Kingsley Suamataia, who happens to not only play next to Josh Simmons, but the best center in football, Creed Humphrey. He's really coming along. And now as a group, they're building continuity. Juwan Taylor's penalties are a bit down. It's always going to be a little bit of a problem. He's always going to be a little bit of a marked man, but I'm less concerned about the offensive line, and I'm encouraged about Kingsley Suamataia. So he is one to watch this week. We do have a couple of potential bad matchups. The first is, I'm real worried about this one, slot corner Chamari Connor versus power slot Amon-Ra St. Brown. In the entire NFL this season, this is up there for biggest mismatch. Chamari Connor, anytime he gets on a guy like Brian Thomas with that pass interference call that kind of decided the game last week, you kind of cringe because he just does not have the athleticism or the speed to contend with a guy like that, to keep up with a guy like that. And my concern is we are kind of back where we've been before, with Steve Spagnuolo and Ben Neiman, with Steve Spagnuolo and Daniel Sorensen, where for some reason or another, I don't know if it's veteran deference or if when they have their group, positional meetings, one guy knows where to be and the other guy doesn't know where to be. But the point of the matter is Chamari Conner can know where to be. His feet cannot get him there. He's not fast enough. And the fishy thing is Steve Spagnuolo last week, he said Noah Williams is playing well enough with him and Jalen Watson on the outside that we can afford to kick Trent McDuffie into the slot. Where I think Trent McDuffie is a really good corner on the outside. I think when he's in the slot, he's the best slot corner in the league. When he's outside, he's a top 10 corner. When he's inside, I think having him play the nickel, he's also such a fantastic pass rusher and tackler and a guy that knocks out a lot of fumbles. That's where I want him. And Noah Williams looks like one of the steals of the draft at cornerback. I just didn't understand why he got 4 snaps last week. Spags is chalking it up to packages. And a lot of times when an offense comes out in a jumbo or heavy set, they dictate the package to the defense. That's why we saw, I think, a lot of Leo Chanel last week, a lot of Chamari Conner, and not a lot of Noah Williams. But I don't know. You just got to find a way to get your best players on the field. You can't let an opposing offense bully you into having a mismatch all night long. And this is just a huge mismatch. Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to add new wrinkles to his game every year. In fact, if you want to see the bull case for what Rashee Rice can become, Amon-Ra St. Brown is that shining example. If Rashee Rice can continue to add, become a little bit more of a man beater and not just a dude who absolutely crushes zone and racks up yak, I think that is maybe the final destination for Rashee Rice. But they really need to get another guy on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I cannot stress that enough. The other one that I'm losing sleep over is the Chiefs linebackers in coverage versus Jahmyr Gibbs, who I think is the closest thing the NFL has seen to Jamal Charles since Jamal Charles. And I know that might sound blasphemous. I don't think he's quite Jamal Charles, but he is, man, he almost looks like him reincarnated. He is a very, very special player and has unbelievable instincts and speed on the football field. So Nick Bolton played awesome last week. I thought he was one of the stars of the game for the Chiefs. Beyond that fumble at the goal line he caused with Trevor Lawrence when he kind of held the ball up. But this is just a mismatch for them in coverage. They do not have the speed to hang with Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, Leo Chanel is limited kind of laterally. He very good straightforward speed, very good athlete kind of in straightforward ways, but not going to be able to keep up with Gibbs. Drew Tranquil, really good athlete too, really smart guy, but this is just a special running back. They're going to need help from the safeties. They are going to need the cornerbacks to tackle as well as they usually do. We know that is the hallmark of Steve Spagnuolo corners. They tackle their ass off. So I would expect some help in the open field, and that's going to be needed. Oh, guys, this next one, number 8, it really pains me to go here because I have always been team Chris Jones, team never trade Chris Jones. I've stood up for him in his contract disputes, all that stuff. But Chris Jones watch. We have to discuss this because he does not look like himself. Now, he looked a little bit better in weeks 3 and 4, but on the season, his pass rush win rate is down to 12.9, and he's almost always at a stellar 18+% of pass rush win rate. And that's like the high water mark for defensive tackles. And Chris Jones gets a lot of flack from the fan base. It's a little confusing to me because he's equally responsible for the dynasty as Travis Kelce, not as much as Patrick Mahomes, but he gets treated differently than Travis Kelce. And the whole Chris Jones takes plays off thing, I don't know. he is a very tall, very big human being who plays at a high pad level and gets double teamed a lot. And if he's getting double teamed on the backside of a play, Chris Jones is not George Karlaftis. Chris Jones does not get paid for having a high motor or making hustle plays. I don't really want him coming from the backside and chasing a running back down 25 yards downfield. Like that, what good is that going to do the Chiefs, really? I want Chris Jones fresh and wrecking games in the fourth quarter. And what I'm concerned with is he has not been doing that. So I don't really care that much about, some of the, like, does he take plays off? Now, in that instance, on the game-winning play from Trevor Lawrence, yeah, in the fourth quarter, if you have the potential to make the play and you're lollygagging, that is unacceptable. Like the fans should be on his ass right now. But like historically, I don't think he's like lazy or a loafer. I don't know what got into him Monday night. I know he's going through a lot with his aunt passing away. I know she kind of helped raise him, but I'm worried. He's not getting double teamed any more than he used to in the past. And I think one of the problems is the Chiefs played him too much last year. The Chiefs played Chris Jones on a per game basis. He played more snaps than any defensive tackle in the National Football League. And all the other guys that were playing as many snaps as he did were like 27 and younger. And when you are a 30-plus defensive tackle who is known for closing games in the fourth quarter, keep this guy fresh. He doesn't need, and when you're getting rid of Mike Pennell and Tyquan Thornton's leaving and you're not adding adequately to the defensive tackle room and your edges aren't as good as they were last year, I think it's going to be a little easier to stop Chris Jones. But I got to be honest, I have seen, or I'm worried I'm seeing a little bit of a decline from Chris Jones, the start of the descent. And maybe this is just a slump and I'm totally wrong, but like if I'm seeing it as like a huge Chris Jones backer and maybe even a Chris Jones apologist, I can imagine other people are really concerned about this. Let's move on to number 9, Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, the running backs. I was pleasantly surprised last week. Now, I still don't think they're an ideal pairing for a Super Bowl contender, but they did have explosive runs of 33 yards for Hunt and 17 yards for Pacheco. I didn't know Kareem Hunt could still a little bit more burst than I thought. You know what I mean? If that was like peak Damian Williams, he might have housed that. But still, Kareem Hunt, 33 yards. I didn't think he had that in him. And then for Pacheco, that hole was wide enough to drive a Volkswagen through, but he showed good patience. He showed good tempo, and he took it for 17 yards. And previously, it felt like, man, 9, 10, 11, 12 yards. That was like peak explosive run for the Chiefs. And 9 to 12 yards for an explosive run, that being your max, that's just not going to cut it in the National Football League when you have other teams routinely ripping off 30, 40-yard runs, sometimes longer. So something to watch. Like, did the Chiefs unlock something, or was it a lucky coincidence? I think maybe they found a little something in the running game. Brashard Smith's going to help too. I do think some of it was just variance, luck, the offensive line really doing its thing. And keep in mind, I know a lot of people are saying, well, they only got 7 carries apiece and they look so good. Well, they look so good because they only got 7 carries apiece. Because when you were the most pass happy team in the league, like the Chiefs are, you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you were getting the lightest boxes in the league. So Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, because of how the Chiefs operate and who their talent is and how fast they are in offense, they see like the easiest situations in the NFL. Now, if you start pounding the rock 30 times a game, you're going to see heavier boxes. That's the way it's going to work. And I think heavier boxes against average running backs is not going to bode well for the Chiefs. So I understand, it's our heritage in Kansas City to run the football, going back to the Nigerian Nightmare and Marcus Allen and Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson, Jamal Charles, even Kareem Hunt himself. But that's just not who the Chiefs are anymore. That's just not their current DNA. And I don't think like run the damn ball is really the path to victory for them this year. I think the path to victory is, entrust in the best player in the league to do his thing, especially on fourth down. Like Andy, you gotta give this guy more opportunities. Number 10, this is something my grandfather, who briefly played in the NFL, used to say. He played for the Chicago Cardinals and the Green Bay Packers, actually. And he would say that the most desperate team usually wins. And I think last week you look at the records for Jacksonville and Kansas City and say, well, the Chiefs were 2-3. Clearly they were the more desperate team. The Jaguars were 3-1 in a lesser division. Why were they more desperate? And I'll tell you why they were more desperate, because the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise has been a laughing stock for a while, right? And that fan base and that team and that coaching staff have not been taken seriously. That owner, like the whole operation, the whole fan base, when people talk about them, they talk about them as if it's inevitable that they will end up in London in 5 years. So you have their head coach going on the radio, going on TV, going on the internet, pleading for fans to show up and be loud, and kind of selling this as their Super Bowl. Like, this is our moment to prove that the Jaguars have changed, that we are for real, that our fan base needs to be respected, that we are here for the long term, that this is not the Jaguars of yesteryear. And so it was very much a statement game for them. And the way they responded to adversity in that game, they looked like a desperate team backed into a corner. Now, I think the Chiefs could have shown better killer instinct if Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquill don't fight over that interception. I'm probably going to blame Drew Tranquill more for that. Just hustling. Like, I'm not mad at him. But that was an easy interception that probably would have ended that game when they were up 14-0. I mean, never say never. The Jaguars seem to be resilient. They seem to have turned a page and be a more formidable team than years past. But I think the Chiefs could have closed out that game. But this week, the Chiefs are 2-3, and I just think they're a little bit more desperate than the Lions, who, after losing in week 1, have looked pretty damn good. And like they're more decimated by injuries. So I think that's going to play into my prediction too. But I just think the Chiefs do not want to fall to 2-4, right? They're just going to be too far behind Buffalo in the AFC seeding race. They're going to be too far behind the Chargers and potentially Broncos in the AFC West race. And I just don't see Patrick Mahomes. This is kind of one of those hell or high water, over my dead body games for him. I just do not see Patrick Mahomes allowing this team on his home field in a primetime spot to drop to 2-4, to drop 2 games below 500. We've never really seen it. I don't expect it to happen now. So here's my prediction. I think the Chiefs are going to keep scoring, and I think they're going to win this football game 27-24. It's going to be tight. But one of the mistakes they made last week is they had the ball at the end. They might have scored a little too quickly and gave the ball back. I think that we're going to see a vintage Mahomes game-winning drive, and we'll be 3-3 heading into Rashee Rice coming back. And that really, if you look at the schedule and you see Lions, Eagles, Ravens, and you're thinking Xavier Worthy injury and no Rashee Rice, you're coming out of that 500. That's where the Chiefs wanted to be. Like the ESPN, what's that thing called? FBI, Football Power Index is showing. The Chiefs have an advantageous schedule going forward. I think really you look and you say, well, what are the toughest spots? At Denver, right? And then they have a bye week, and then they play at Buffalo coming off a bye. So you got your toughest game, but you have an extra bye week to prepare for it. I just think the rest of the season, like, we're going to see potentially one of these Chiefs runs where they barely lose any games. And I think the rest of the league, the people that are counting the Chiefs out because they're 2-3 really aren't seeing the big picture right now. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks to the chat for showing up and bringing it. We always appreciate you. If you dig Arrowhead Addict, here's how you can help our community grow. Subscribe here on YouTube. That way you never miss a show or short or anything we're doing here. If you're an audio listener on either Spotify or Apple, one thing that would really help me out, really help all the boys out, would be to leave a 5-star review. And if you do that on Apple, you can actually ask a question. And we'll get to it on the Thursday OG Hour, either with myself and Patrick Allen, or Patrick Allen and Matt Verderam, or sometimes a special guest. Yesterday, Price Carter was on, who always does great stuff. Lastly, check out the mothership. Matt Connor and the gang will have you ready for game time with all the updates and really just round the clock. It should be when you start your morning coffee rounds and you're looking at content on your phone, you're groggy and you know, not really ready for your day yet, arrowheadaddict.com. That's a great place to start. Join us live. Actually, I have an announcement. We are not going to be back next Friday because Freaky Friday is no longer. We have decided to move back to Wednesday. I will let you know the exact time soon, but Freaky Friday is going back to Wacky Wednesday. We think for a number of reasons that's going to allow us to produce a better show. So we are doing that. Sterling and I will be back next Wednesday. And I will be here this weekend. We're going to have a pregame show Sunday night, a halftime show. I think those will be probably with Price Carter. And then I will be showing up with, I don't know, 2 or 3 other guys to help break down the game after the game. Hopefully a big Chiefs win over the Lions. Until then, go Chiefs.